Good morning. Nice of you guys to drop by.
What a piece of junk. What are you talking about?
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Look, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Trust me.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. Don't get technical with me.
This bickering is pointless.
Don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
How
could you even say that?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, come on.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Would you get going, you pirate?
Get in there, you big furry oaf! I don't care what you smell!
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
I like the sound of that.
Get a shuttle ready.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Shuttle Tydirium, what is your cargo and destination?
Transmission commencing.
Hey, everybody. Thanks tonight for listening to us for the Shuttle Tydirium podcast. I'm your host and pilot, Jim Chadwick, also known as Hey Chadwick on the FFG forums. I have my co-pilot, Phil Mead, here. Phil, say hello.
Hey, guys. I'd like to ask everyone to put your trays in the upright and locked position because we have some space turbulence ahead of us tonight.
And our chief engineer, Jake Freed.
Hello, everybody. If I'm a little quiet, it's because I'm working on the motivators to get the hyperdrive working again.
And our cranky protocol droid, Jonathan Pierce.
Am I supposed to be the turbulence? Because it might be a bumpy ride.
You're the emotional turbulence.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening once again to episode 2 of the Shuttle Tydirium podcast. We are still winging it and learning it and moving along. But I wanted to start something I'm hopefully going to do every episode or every other episode is a question for the rest of the crew that I have prepared, but no one else knows about. So my question basically is, because we're trying to be the mothership of casual X-Wing and different X-Wing and all sorts of just different ways to play. So just to throw out an odd question, if you could ban one card from X-Wing, the game, one card that's out there, and this is from an FFG forum thread that was started, so if you're one of the people who, like me, obsessively watch it and post on it, you'll probably have thought about it. But let me go to the chief engineer, because you're so smart. Jake.
Well, that's a really good question. I'm a big fan of the game. I like it a lot. It's very hard to choose a card to necessarily ban because I could see myself in any situation playing most of them. But on the spot, if I had to say, I would probably go with a pilot card, one that I've had particular amounts of trouble with in the past, but one that I also feel like isn't used too often. But when I do face him, he's a particular thorn in my side. I think that I would go with Biggs Darklighter. An X-Wing pilot, and it all comes down to control. Being a chief engineer of the Shuttle Tydirium, I really like to have control. I like it when the hyperdrive purrs when it goes into warp. I like to have all my things in a row, and I like everything to go the way it's planned. But I don't know. Biggs is kind of he controls my actions. If he's kind of surrounded by some other ships, he's making me shoot at him. I don't like people telling me who to shoot at. I like to shoot at who I want to shoot at. And it's not always Biggs. So that's
right.
That's my
so he's maybe a little too much.
Too much for weak old chief engineer here.
That's actually a pretty good choice because Biggs actually kind of closes down the design space. Designers always have to remember that Biggs is out there, so they can't, for example, make the X-Wing too good defensively. Otherwise, they'll give a huge advantage to the Rebels.
Right.
Okay, that's a good answer. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So, thinking about this and keeping in mind that maybe our goal is to open up the traditional bounds of X-Wing a little bit, I think push the limit would be what I would get rid of.
You stole mine.
You can both say
you
it.
have about 15 seconds to think of a new one.
I can't think that fast.
Push a limit. Everyone uses it because it's a really, really good card, and I think it's like the original overpowered upgrade card.
Yeah, it's just
that's why I
auto
go with
include. You just the one that everybody goes to. Hey, I'm going to run Dengar. What do I put him on? Oh, push the limit. Oh, suit your fella always will push the limit. Okay, who else? Push the limit. It's just if you've got an EPT slot and you're not sure what to do, throw on push the limit. It's just
right.
It's just overdone.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's my prime.
Taking it away opens up a lot of space because you have to do something else.
All right, so here's a question. So imagine Suntir Fel without push the limit. So you've got to do something that actually creates stress.
Right.
What EPT, elite pilot talent, would you give Suntir Fel? Or what would you do to make him actually trigger his special ability?
I don't know enough since I don't play Suntir Fel. I don't have a lot of Imperials, but maybe that can you put the it's the one that lets you do an action. I just used it tonight and I forgot about it. It has the Admiral Akbar looking guy on the front of it. It's the
experimental
interface. But does he have any other action cards he could do to do it, like an EPT that would let him use an action?
There's a few pilot talent cards with actions on them, but they mostly are pretty bad. I think
expert handling,
marksmanship is one.
Yeah. Exposed.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah. Nah, you wouldn't want to do that though. I mean,
what about elusive?
Anyway.
Elusive gives you a stress, but it forces your opponent to reroll dice. So Suntir Fel, always about the defense. If he affects your dice by making you reroll, he gets the stress, which gives him a focus. So when it comes to his turn to actually modify his dice, he has his focus.
I might actually go with stay on target.
Yeah.
Because that lets you reset your dial. I forget exactly how it lets you reset your dial. I think there's some restriction. But you reset your dial and it makes it the maneuver a red maneuver. So that would help him, do a good amount of repositioning, be very squirrely, and you could have a focus at the end of it.
And yeah, that actually is pretty good. Also, playing off his maneuverability. When I used to play Suntir Fel, when I had my Imperial chapters, I can't remember everything about this card off the top of my head, but I think I used Daredevil on him a bit.
Yeah, that's the card I was kind of thinking of. I don't know the names of those.
Yeah, I think you get a stress token. It's just an action that gives you like a turn, like a one turn, I think.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to risk getting damage, I think, because he already has a boost. So you know, I remember using that a lot. I don't think I've ever used push limit on him, but I think Daredevil I did use a lot.
Okay, so back to me. Now that he stole my answer, I am going to go with something that seems to be becoming like everywhere. And even though I love turrets, I'm taking the TLT away because that thing. It was great when it first came out. Now it seems like it's everywhere. Every list that's got a turreted ship seems to have TLT on it. And I was bemoaning the fact that no one seems to use ion turrets anymore. And that used to be the kind of, really piss off your opponent. Yeah. I can use an ion turret and really mess with them. Now it's, I've got a 3-ship list with TLTs, and it's like, that seems kind of boring. Everybody's taking TLTs. So if I had to choose, I'd take that one. I saw some stats that basically the store championships, TLTs, there was a lot of them. But since regionals have started, just for tournament stuff, like the number of TLTs has utterly plummeted.
That's right. They do terribly against a lot of the new meta lists.
Really?
Interesting. Yeah. I think they really get destroyed by the U-boats list, the three contracted scouts with.
Yeah, it sounds like that destroys every list, though, doesn't it? So.
Well, yeah, particularly these. I mean, they're they can easily take out one Y-wing in a round of shooting before it fires on them, and then reload for another. Take another Y-wing off the board. the very next turn.
I do think push the limit would really change the game quite a bit. And I think
that's my first
go-to. Suntir fell.
Because it changes not just him, it changes a lot of those very agile ships. That
Twin Laser Turret would have been really good. Would have changed things up if you had taken that away like a month ago.
Yeah, it seems like they've come out with new ships to go beyond that. But push the limit would have been my first go-to, and then obviously TLT.
Before I list mine, I'll give some of the ones that I read in the forums that people said. One that a lot of people did not wanted to get rid of was Veteran Instinct. That the PI battle, the PI war as they called it, was just, so obnoxious that just get rid of Veteran Instinct. It was too much. It was just, boom, everybody gets PS, plus 2 PS. And it's always, you gotta get high PS, and how annoying that was.
It made, it was part of the problem that made the Phantoms really good. They're, it was an auto include on Whisper back when Whisper was a holy terror.
Okay, and so to come to my personal hatred and the thing that pisses me off more about X-Wing than anything else, here's my Rantwing. Basically,
hey, wait, that's my segment. You can't have that. Don't make me add you to the list of things to complain about.
I'm turning the fasten your seatbelt sign on.
Yeah, boom, ding,
ding, ding.
Trades and prepositions. I hate Phantoms, but to be honest, it comes down to I want to ban advanced cloaking device. Okay. Yes, I know they've been quote nerfed, and they're not as utterly powerful as they used to be, but they're still dang good. And basically, a ship that you give it Veteran Instinct, and it's going to go first. And unless you've got a really, really high PS, it's going to recloak. It's got 4 attack die, which I think is way too much. And it's insane maneuverability. What I see in the TIE Phantom is that it has some very hard counters. It has some things that if you've got them in your list, you crush it. But if you don't have those things in your list, it crushes you. Like the TIE Phantom can defeat your whole list, kind of a thing. That basically, if you don't have a high PS pilot skill ship that can shoot before it cloaks, you're screwed. If you don't have a way to stress it so that it can't recloak, you're screwed. Like, if you don't have these certain things in a Phantom, this one ship will destroy your entire list. And to me, it creates such a version of rock, paper, scissors. Like, oh, do you have this in your list? No, I win. Oh, you do have that in your list? You win. It's just it creates that version of the game that TIE Phantoms are like the worst ship ever made in X-Wing because it's
so much.
And it's not like you can't beat them, but it's just that you have to have these freaking tools, or else most likely they will beat you. And it just ruins. Like, hey, I like to think with X-Wing, as long as you're not super, utterly, uber competitive, you could take 100 points of almost anything and win. Like, hey, I want to take 4 rookie pilots with proton torpedoes and guidance chips and play, and I want to have a decent chance of actually beating things. If I play smart, if I play really well, I want to be able to do that. And the thing about Phantoms is you can't. And that destroys
that advanced,
so much.
The advanced cloaking devices, I get where you're going, because without that, they can't recloak after taking that shot, and it does kind of reopen that door. Yeah. But it is an auto-include. Every list I've ever seen with the Phantom had one of those, and,
there's very few
it
lists
was a
that
pain.
Worked well without advanced cloaking. There is a couple out there that I think Aaron Bonner ran a Six Sigma list. Where he had the lower pilot skill Phantoms, and he had them equipped with the Stygium particle accelerator, if I'm not mistaken, and he used them like kind of as blockers and played this really intense positional game with them. That was really cool. That's a really cool use of Phantoms, but it's not typical.
Last year at our store championship, we had a guy who won with 3 generic. TIE Phantoms with Stygium particles.
Yeah, that might have been that list that was.
And that was the only one that beat me. I went into the Final Four undefeated with my 4 TIE bombers. I mean, 4 TIE bombers with like Jonas and a bunch of others before expeditions or anything. And I creamed everything I met until I ran into 3 TIE Phantoms.
I really wanted to play that list. I really, really wanted to play that list because I think he would have run into a meat grinder against mine. And we can discuss that later in the show, but it was the one list in that whole tournament. I'm like, I want to play that list because I don't think he's even remotely prepared for what my list could do to it. And we might get a chance to discuss my list later, and it is not a killer list, but it's just the type thing that in those days against Phantoms and some of the other lists out there, it really was kind of a meat grinder that people just shook their heads at, how in the heck is this possible sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the way it was. It's like, and if people use it, it's like either you cream it or it creams you. And it's just the worst version of X-Wing. You know, it just, you have this? I win. You have that?
Yeah,
Why
I would
bother
say
playing?
It was definitely a lot worse back in the heyday of the Phantoms, back in, I think, Wave 5 or so, where it was really like you either had Whisper and Chirnu, or something very similar to Chirnu. You were either flying that list, or you were flying Fat Han with some support, or maybe a TIE Swarm, but probably just either Whisper, Decimator, or Fat Han, who would be able to shoot reliably before Whisper and take her out.
Yeah.
Those were really the dark days of the Phantom. They are definitely a lot more manageable now. And actually, I played a game against someone flying Whisper and Chirnu. I'm flying in the Vassal League right now on Reddit, and I ran up against a player running Whisper and Chirnu, and I made some really bad decisions early on, and I definitely threw away the game in my opening moves, stupidly. It's a new list I'm flying. But at the very end of the game, it came down to my Epsilon leader, who's one of I think he's the Pilot Skill 6 TIE-FO, the one that takes the stress off everyone at range 1.
Mm-hmm.
It was him against a full health Whisper, right? And I managed to dance around with this Whisper, anticipating where he was going to decloak, or what his maneuver was going to be after he decloaked, and where he was going to decloak. So I would, do a turn into where he was going to be, and then I could barrel roll, and just really, really mess with him. And I managed to outfly him for about seven rounds of play. I think this replay is probably up. If you want to dig around and find it, but it was a lot of fun. I ended up taking out 2 of his shields before he started flying unpredictably, and eventually lined me up and killed me. But it's a lot of fun. So I don't know. My feelings on Phantom are these days they're not super bad, but there's definitely lists that if you flew up against a Phantom. You're really, really screwed.
Yeah, I just hate it so much. I think that Advanced Cloaking Device ruins the game so much. It creates that.
It's a really powerful card. Yeah.
That binary and or
with that
like
ship, absolutely.
It should be a couple more points probably.
I think it should just be banned. I think. I hate it. Like I hate that card. That whole thing. Like, I have beaten Phantoms. It's not like I've never have, but I just think that it ruins the game because you have to build your list a certain way. But, all right, I've already said that. So, all right, moving on. We could probably talk about some news, what's been actually going on and what's been announced. So, I know we're a new podcast. We can't really, I don't want to go too far back about what's been released or not released. But the next product to come out is called Imperial Veterans. So anybody who doesn't know, doesn't troll the forums like I do, that Imperial Veterans is going to come out end of May or sometime throughout June. End of May if you're optimistic. Yeah. I prefer to have my dreams, have them crushed, and then, heal before the next product announcement and repeat the cycle again. But basically, it's going to be kind of like an Imperial Aces, but it's going to be dealing with the TIE Bomber and the TIE Defender.
Some heavy weapons.
Which
yes.
Is great,
now, we already had
need a little bit of a boost.
We already had guidance chip
I don't know if they really do.
Ordnance and extra munitions, but there's also a card that's been announced for this long-range sensors that basically can only be used if you have both a torpedo and a missile slot, which is basically the K-Wing, the TIE Punisher, the TIE Bomber, and Slave 1 unique fire spray are the only ships. And for this one, it basically says you can get a target lock anywhere on the board except at range 1 or 2. You can never get a target lock at range 1 or 2, but you can grab it first turn and get that target lock. And the whole point of this is basically to your low pilot skill bombers, like your Scimitar pilots, which I happen to love, can get that target lock, and then hopefully by the time you get in a position, you get a target lock and a focus.
Right.
On that.
It's a really good fix for a very critical ordnance problem that's been around forever, right? This has always been a stumbling block in the way of building a good ordnance list, because you always needed a high pilot skill ship in order to get that target lock for your first round.
Yeah, you needed that kind of second move to get but even then, right, you rarely got more than one shot. You got that kind of opening shot at range 3, and then everybody was too close to kind of fire. This one sounds like the type of thing where you can fire it just as you get into range 3, and you might be able to get a second shot off.
Right. It's a really good fix. I would have done it slightly differently, and I say that because I actually did make a custom card almost exactly like this. It was called, I think this card is long range scanners, right?
Uh-huh.
My custom card was long range sensors. I think it was a modification upgrade, and I think I had it at one point, so a little more expensive. But it was essentially the same thing. You could get a target lock at any range, but there was no restriction that you needed a torpedo and missile slot. Rather, the restriction was that you could only spend your target lock when attacking with torpedoes and missiles. So the reason I like that a little better than what they had is because it opens it up to more ships. So any ship that has a torpedo and a missile can use this to shoot their ordnance, but it's not useful for your primary weapon or for any other weapon. So,
well, I think FFG stole your idea and needs to pay you by sending you a
they
free
probably
copy
owe me royalties. Let's be honest.
A free copy of Imperial Veterans. I think
FFG, send I'll include my address below. You can send me my check whenever you're ready.
Right? Can't we have both cards though? I like both of them. I like the idea of only being able to use your target locks on one type of ordnance versus being able to use it on everything.
Now,
can we go back? Can I take target locks out of the game?
You can actually do long-range scanners and guidance chip. And so basically, long-range scanner, to me, I've played, if anyone doesn't know, I've played a lot of TIE Bombers. I've played 4 TIE Bombers for over a year competitively and done well with it. As I stated, I went to the Final 4 last year's store championship before any of the fixes were out, and I was undefeated. So the only one. I know TIE Bombers, and if you have a decent pilot skill, you will want guidance chip. If you want long range, if you don't, you want long range scanners. And a lot of people on the forums are like, "Oh, it's crap, never want it." But I think they have obviously never played with a TIE Bomber, because one of the best moves of a TIE Bomber is a 5K turn. It basically means you can go way past everybody, and you're there stressed for a turn, and you do 1 forward, because they can go 1 forward green, remove it, and grab the target lock, because at that point, no one's in range 2. I don't see that being a problem not getting the next target lock. And I also say, homing missiles you don't have to spend your target lock. And if you happen to roll well, you don't have to. If you feel like, oh my God, maybe that one die, I'll leave it as a miss if I'm going to, actually get it. But if you've actually got the focus and target lock, you might not even need to use that target lock. And if you're using homing missiles, which, forget Jonas. By the way, anybody who's playing TIE bombers, forget Jonas. He's too expensive. You can save points by just spending one more on homing missile and ignoring Jonas and just going for homing missile. Just do that. It's much easier.
That's actually pretty good advice.
Right, because I used to play with Jonas, and everybody said, when you play someone and you've got a bunch of TIE bombers and Jonas, what does everyone do? But they target Jonas and they blast him first. And TIE bombers have no shields, 2 green dice, and Jonas dies really fast. And then you're going, crap, I can't modify dice at all. I've been there. Trust me. Just drop them all at the same level and go for homing missiles because it's only 1 point more, and you can modify as many dice, not just 2, but as many dice as you want. And they can't use an evade. I mean, what's not to like about that? And if you roll all hits, you don't have to spend your, freaking
keep it for your next missile. Yeah.
So, right. But I think also the idea of the 5K turn and then a 1 forward gives you the room to actually do long-range scanners as well. And another complaint is, well, if you just put your target locks on someone, that person can just stay out of the range and then, and totally, screw you. But okay,
honestly, that sounds great to me.
Right.
They went away from you.
Right. So
check.
if you're playing competitive, everybody always has 2 or 3 ships, and that's their entire freaking list, which is just stupid to me. But let's just say you've got 4 TIE bombers. You put 2 on one target, 2 on another. Oh, your Suntir fell. He wants to evade and stay out. Ha ha ha. Well, okay, you just use your other 2 shots to fire at the rest of the list. Or even, you want to be crafty. How about this? You put 2 on Suntir fell, and guess what? He's going to freaking dodge out of the arc. So you move your TIE bombers next round, and you target lock somebody else with them. Oh, you don't have your target lock focus, but who cares? You're still just... Suntir fell is out of the fight for a full round while you alpha strike his entire rest of the list. I mean, that's a perfect... I'd love for someone to do that.
It gives you a good chance to do some psychological warfare on your enemy.
Right. And so people are just and oh, they can just arc dodge, magic wand. I wave it and just beat your TIE bombers. It's wait a second. Have you seen the dial on the TIE bomber? I can
Is there a card for that?
Yeah,
I totally
people
want
think
that card. Arc dodge card.
Arc dodge.
Magic, you can't
put your ship wherever you want.
Yeah, just a bit. Oh, yeah. Can I make that? Do they have that I can make as a custom card?
Yeah.
The arc dodge card.
If
we'll
talk
about that later.
Bank
only for my ships.
You could basically end up in about the same position, but facing a different direction. I was I'm going to arc dodge you. Ha, I'll boost the barrel. I was okay, I'm going to 1 bank and barrel backwards with 2 of my ships that have target lock on Suntir fell, and he's going to still be in range, and I'm going to light him up. I don't know. I think I'm rambling at this point. So
yes,
we're
rambling.
All right, so
Imperial Vets.
There was released a new bomber pilot just recently with the last one. It was April 15th, if you didn't know, and basically it's Death Rain. So Death Rain
or Deathfire, right?
Is shoot.
Yeah, everyone makes that mistake.
Yes. Deathfire is pilot skill 3, so 1 point more than your Scimitar pilot. And Scimitar pilots are 16 points. Deathfire is 17, so 1 more point. But it's a generic, or it's just like a regular TIE bomber, no elite pilot talents. But whenever you reveal your dial, or after you perform an action, you may perform a bomb upgrade action as a free action. So basically, this lets you... When I play bombers, I like the bombs that don't require an action. They're the ones you reveal your dial. You can drop them. Seismic Charge, pretty much is the cheapest, or Ion Bomb if you want to go expensive. But the ones that require actions are best for K-Wings who've got their slam. They can boom, boom, and get the free action and drop the bomb. But this says, and what I like is, whenever you reveal your dial or perform an action. So
right.
Normally,
Choices.
you have to move and then put out, I don't know, Connor Net or Proximity Mine. But this, you can actually reveal your dial, then drop that bomb, and then move and do your regular action. Or move, do your regular action, and then drop the bomb. So it makes bombs a lot more viable on the TIE Bomber, those action-oriented bombs that I felt didn't really have a place.
Right, and it turns a lot more of the table into places where he can drop these bombs, right? Because normally you can sort of expect where, anticipate the danger zones for bombers, right? So on like a low pilot skill ship carrying a bomb, and a bomb, not a mine, you can just know that there's a zone behind that ship where they could drop a bomb and then move away. Or if they're moving before you and trying to drop a mine, then they can do things like, fly over you and drop a mine on you. There's not much you can do about that. But Deathfire has a lot of choices in what he can do, and that makes him a lot more dangerous. He threatens much more of the table. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it certainly sounds interesting. Just out of stupid question, does that mean he could theoretically drop 2? Since
I think you can only
it's an action to drop 1?
Yeah, you can only drop 1.
It's been FAQ that you can never drop 2.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did any of you look into Deathfire's background?
No.
I think he's completely new. I couldn't find any info on him anywhere. I did look into the other pilots. Some of them have interesting stories. But Deathfire, I think, is a new creation from FFG.
Now, for anyone that always wonders about pilots and who they are, you've heard of Wikipedia, but there's Wookieepedia, which is totally Star Wars wiki, that you can actually go out and look at all these different things. And like when I was in the game, I hadn't read EU expanded universe novels and all sorts of stuff, and I actually went out and looked up all these people, and I learned a lot about things without having to read some semi-bad novels to really figure it out. So if anyone, I encourage you to go to Wikipedia and look up various names, because it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it might surprise you who some of these characters are.
Right.
So what else is there in this release?
That's
interesting to us anyway.
They did come out with the latest one on April 25th called Defend the Empire, which gives you the last named TIE Defender pilot, and there's also the titles. Now, do we want to talk about the titles and what they do? There's 2 of them.
They seem pretty cool to me. I like the TIE D title more than I like the TIE X7 title. Because I don't know about you guys, but I played the TIE Fighter video game back, probably 15 years ago or something crazy.
Classic.
Yeah, it was classic. It was one of the best, space flight, space sim games out there.
Which is where Merrick Steele came from.
Right. Merrick Steele is who you are in that game, and you eventually fly a TIE Defender, and it's really awesome. It has ion cannons that you can switch between those and your lasers, and this reminds me of that. So
now I'll say, after X-Wing, or after TIE Fighter, and after X-Wing came out, there was X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, and it was at like the dawn of the internet, and there was one weekend, a bunch of us had a LAN party where, before the internet was really formed and you could actually play games over it, you could only play over LAN. We'd get like 10 people that'd bring over their gaming rigs, would network them all together. And this was before like DHCP, and it was plugging in. You had to like manually set your IP address and your subnet to make it all work. It was a pain, but once you got it working, we had like 5 rebels versus 5 Imperials playing this game on missions where you had to protect this or blow that up, and oh my god, it was some of the best fun I've ever had playing video games. And I've been playing video games since like my first video game was when I was about 7 years old. Visited my dad at IBM playing on a mainframe where little V's shot periods at each other. It's crazy. But so there's 2 titles that come out with the TIE Defender, and we'll go over the first one that Phil likes. You want to talk about it?
Okay, so the TIE title. Let me call it up here real fast. Pretty much, it says once per round after you perform an attack with a cannon that costs 3 or fewer squad points, you can perform a primary attack. So you can perform 2 attacks per round, which is really good. And the first one has to be with a cheap cannon.
What cannons are 3 points or less?
So you've got your ion cannon, flechette cannon, and tractor beam. I think that's it.
Yep.
All of which are not bad choices. I think flechette cannon is probably going to be the least used out of the 3 because 1 stress token isn't too much to recover from.
Flechette cannon, to remind people, so 3 dice.
Yeah.
You have to hit. If you hit, you only do 1 damage, and if they aren't already stressed, they gain a stress. If they are already stressed, who cares?
Yeah. So I think people will probably just want to ionize ships more than that, or go for the tractor beam, which is cheaper at 1 point, and sets them up for your next attack. Because when you get hit with a tractor beam, first of all, if you're a small ship, they get to make you perform a straight 1 boost or a barrel roll, any direction that the attacker wants. And then on top of that,
onto an asteroid.
For example, onto an asteroid. Yeah.
Yeah. Or in range 1 for your main guns for your primary attack.
And then it drops your agility value by 1, so you're rolling 1 fewer green dice. It's a really interesting card. I know the game developers had been looking at doing tractor beams for a while. It's interesting. Moving someone else's ship around is a lot of power for you to have. It's it's a little dangerous, I think, in terms of game mechanics. But making the card so that it doesn't cost any direct damage probably does a good job of balancing out. Like, for example, right now, tractor beams are out there in Wave 8, but I think they hardly ever see any play, even though they're cheap and they have a really interesting effect, potentially powerful effect. Giving up your attack is just a really big price to pay for most ships.
But with the TIE D title, you don't give up your attack.
Right, you have your primary attack right after. So I think once the TIE D title is out there, we'll start seeing a bunch of tractor beams on defenders.
So what about Jake? What do you think about the TIE D title?
Well, I think it's actually really exciting. It sounds like the TIE Defender is getting a little bit of a facelift there, and having that ability. I mean, I feel like Phil really summed it up quite nicely. I do foresee a lot more TIE Ds, or just TIE Ds in general, with the tractor beam, being able to use it and then also fire. It's just being able to manipulate someone else's ships in any game, whether it's this game or not just ships, but pieces in general. Whether it's a video game, it's right. Frustrating for your opponent, and it again, just like at the beginning of this podcast when I said my card that I don't like, that I'd like to ban, is Biggs. Why? Because he takes my control away. Well, if you're putting the control of my ships into someone else's hands, and then you get to shoot at them, whoo, I'm going to be feisty.
Ion cannons as well do the damage and also gives them control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What about Cranky?
Yeah, John, what do you think?
Oh, well, I never played Defenders since I'm mostly Republic side. I've played against them, and I honestly, I think they're already pretty good. I haven't seen anyone there's a guy that plays at the store who runs 3 of them who does pretty well with them, and he has some upgrades on them. These just seem like they're giving him more fuel. I mean, that's from my point of view. I won't go into it, but there's a lot of 0-point upgrades suddenly coming out for stuff, and none of them really seem like they're fixing broken ships. They all seem to be going on things that are already devastating, and This feels like another one. It's like, look, I've got another ship that can fire twice. Right. There's a lot of ships suddenly coming out that could fire twice in a round, and it's starting to worry me. You know, it's starting to, quite frankly, get on my nerves that a lot of these ships, I mean, you're seeing it. There's I guess the U-boats got these abilities. You've got all sorts of stuff, and like I said, it's starting to worry me that a lot of it is coming from 0-point upgrades instead of things you really should be paying for to get.
You've got to love the X7 title then, which I'll say one of the complaints people have about the TIE Defender is that it was overcosted. Even though Biophysical is a guy who practiced a lot on his own and went to a tournament and won it with basically 2 TIE Defenders. And he was crushing people with TIE Defenders. And people are like, what? Oh, my God, TIE Defenders? What? But the general impression of TIE Defenders, because they came at the same time as the Phantom, and the Phantom was broken, and everybody played it and loved it, and they felt the TIE Defender cost too much. So the X7 title basically removes the missile and cannon upgrade slots. But whenever you do a speed 3, 4, or 5 maneuver, which is they've got the white K-turn, they've got the forward speeds, they've got the banks, and also the 3-turn is a white maneuver. You get a free evade token assigned to your ship. They can't even do evade as a standard action. It gives you an evade action. So it kind of plays in the idea that the TIE Defender is supposed to be really fast and deadly and zipping around constantly. And it gives you that survivability that seems to be lacking, because I've played Defenders, and if you focus fire on a Defender, it just dies.
They die. It's just 2 TIE fighters.
Yeah, but we're getting into the if you focus fire. I can say that about every ship in the game.
Well,
it's a 3 damage, 3 agility, 3 hull, 3 shield ship. That is a massive amount of quote unquote hit points with agility and damage on top of it. I mean, come on, guys.
But I think
let's look at other ships that have nowhere close to those stats, but cost the same amount of points in the game. That's why I get that. Like, wait a minute, this ship has white K-turns too, and it has the ability to barrel roll.
Yeah,
like I said, now you're adding
exactly
more and more to these
ships. Cost too much though, because they knew they were making a super fighter when they designed it, right? They knew it was going to have a really awesome stat line, 3-3-3-3, right? They knew they were going to get a 4K turn, so they priced it really conservatively. They probably almost definitely made it more expensive than it is. I know Biophysical has run Defenders and he has done well, but he's kind of the exception that proves the rule, because he has worked so hard to make Defenders work. He's put so much time and effort into making that 2 Defender list work.
I will say that since he's done that through the store championships of this past spring, winter and spring, there have been numerous people that have had TIE Defenders that have made it to the top 4 or 1 store championships with TIE Defenders before these titles have come out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty confident that the ship was more expensive than it should have been.
I don't think it was as bad as people said it was, but
maybe not.
Everybody listened to all the interwebs and what it said and said, "Oh, it's like," and they just gave up on it. And
why work on a ship that is too expensive when there are ships that are not too expensive? Yeah,
right, exactly.
But Jonathan, can you guess how much the X7 title cost?
Oh, I'm looking at it right now, and it's just making me even more mad. Like, wait a minute, this isn't even a 0 point. This is a -2 point.
It's -2 points.
I'm totally and utterly confused at this point. So I'm not a math guy, and maybe the guy who's figured this out. So if I do the math right, that means getting a 3, 4, 5 with the free evade costs less points than just a missile and a cannon slot. So the missile and a cannon slot, let's say, costs 4 points. That, it means it's 6 points for that. What? Huh? Okay, I don't understand.
It's basically like chart and refit. So basically,
yeah,
it is like the chart and refit, but that refit lets you put something else on the. on the ship versus
it's a
this essentially
slot.
This is essentially taking away the opportunity to really put anything on there besides the EPT and a modification.
Trident refit is a missile slot, so it takes away your missile ability.
But it doesn't give you that free evade, though.
Right, it doesn't give you that free evade. I mean, not that ship actually needs it, but it's still very amazing.
I kind of disagree. I think it's probably just...
No, I'm saying it doesn't need the free evade. That's what I'm saying, not the price. I'm saying that the ship that already gets the evade probably doesn't need a second free evade, but or has an evade action it can take.
Oh, yeah, the A-Wing, yeah.
Yep.
Now, just to go over, they announced before that one of the pilots was going to be Merrick Steele, so the guy from the video games is actually playing, you can either put him as a TIE Defender or as a TIE Advance, and there's benefits to both, and people are debating which is better. Personally, I think they both have their pluses and minuses. But that Merrick Steele was actually priced pretty reasonable compared to like the generics that they announced. Glaive Squadron were 34 points and PS6. And that Merrick is 35 points and PS7, and the same ability as a TIE Defender or a TIE Advanced X1. He gets the TIE Defender, which is if he gets a crit, you draw 3 and he picks which one.
Yeah, he's pretty aggressively priced compared to the Glaive Squadron. I mean, they're essentially saying that his ability is not worth any more points.
So he gets a pilot skill and he gets a special ability.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot with it. Most people online say that it's best not to try to force his ability.
Yeah.
But to just kind of, if it happens, it happens, or maybe do a calculation.
There's a lot of ways that you could throw points away trying to make that ability happen that are probably not worth it.
But
give him the homing, advanced homing missiles. You could give him a mangler cannon. If you give him, either of those, you're essentially saying that he can't use the either the two fixes because they're both titles that discourage use of. Mangler cannon is 4 points, so you can't use it with a TIE D title, and you can't use it with a TIE X7 title because you lose your cannon slot. There's no easy way to force his ability to happen right now. Unless maybe you fly him with Palpatine.
Well, there's that one missile that does the automatic face-up.
Right.
I think it's a missile.
Yeah, advanced
homing missile.
But it doesn't mesh well.
Only range 2, and it's only 3 attack die.
Yeah.
So it's never going to hit Suntir Fel, but it'll hit, like a U-boat or
yeah, it could be good against some things, but, those are points that don't
you're throwing it away for
with
something.
Either title. That you're gonna have at least one of those titles on the Steel probably because they're so good.
Yeah, there's no reason never to take those. I mean, there's 0 points and negative points, so why would I not take them?
Exactly.
It's like I was complaining about guidance chip this afternoon or this evening was, it's 0 points. I'm just going to throw it on everything like integrated astromechs. It's if somebody shows up at the table and doesn't have it, it's like you're just not on the card. Is this the problem? Or
right, but that basically is supposed to be the fix because they guessed that Ordnance would be more powerful than it was, but they can't exactly reboot the game, or they don't want to reboot the game.
Yeah, they can't rewrite those cards.
Right. Yeah, I understand it's hard.
So
to
this is that ability, but there is also they also announced the price cost for the PS6 generic that has an elite pilot, and that's 34 points for Glaive Squadron, and so that was new and interesting. But they also announced the last named pilot, Countess Ryad, and she's the same points, 34 points, but she's one less pilot skill at Skull 5. She has elite pilot, but she also has a special ability that whenever she reveals a straight maneuver, she can turn it into a Kyogen turn, K-turn. So any move that the TIE Defenders can do speed 2 to 5 straight forward, and they're all green. They're green. So you can basically do any speed K-turn that you want, and it's green. And
Yeah.
she's got a elite pilot, which makes her push the limit, PTL.
Yeah, you should probably just staple push the limit to Ryad.
Right.
You're probably always going to want that. She's pretty interesting. I'd say that she would be a lot more scary if she were higher pilot skill.
Yeah.
Because she's going to want to make that decision after everybody else has already moved.
Yeah, she feels like she's the kind of queen, I guess it's a female, queen of the, as we like to call it, Chapter 101 of Imperial Flying, which is fly straight at them, do a K-turn, fly straight back, do a K-turn. It's like the first thing they teach the rookies when they come in. It looks like she must be the instructor for that class. So, I mean, it's very interesting.
She was an NPC in Star Wars Galaxy's spaceflight expansion. She was an NPC that you could fight. That is her origin. She was a Defender pilot in that, too.
And I believe eventually Sinterfeld killed her in some...
Oh, yeah,
story.
I think it's... probably in some comics somewhere. Yeah, correct.
Right. But basically... There was a thread started, oh my god, how will we ever defeat her? She's too OP, overpowered.
No, I don't see that happening.
Right, but you look at a similar person, you look at Juno, what was her name?
Juno Eclipse.
Juno
It's
Eclipse.
The same sort of thinking about her, and they never materialized.
Everyone's like, oh my god, she's going to be so powerful, you can do so much with her, and how many people actually have seen her on the table? A few people have, but almost
just
no
take
one.
Vader instead.
Yeah, right. And that's what I see about her. So, all right. So that is pretty much just the TIE Defender. I know there's kind of a lot and kind of go into, so hopefully it hasn't been too boring. But basically that's the kind of the news that's come out. And I think it's interesting. I think it's exciting. I think the TIE Defender will become a staple you will see on the tables.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll see a lot more of it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we'll see plenty more, actually, now that they've got these cheapo cards.
Right. These overpowered cards that'll break it.
That's right, these cheapo cards that just screw me. That's what that's what the titles of these cards. Screw Jonathan.
I will say that Deathfire, I'm kind of I want to try Deathfire because there have been a bunch of bombs I've just kind of never really used much because the action's too annoying.
Yeah, he could be really interesting. I think we'll see him in a few, creative lists. Hopefully he can make some top tables.
I will say, one thing that has started online on the forums that has kind of stuck with me is that anytime there's an Imperial pilot you don't know who they are, it's a female. Because it's just cooler to have more female characters. So whenever you say he, I always like, oh, it's a her. Wait, no, actually it isn't. We don't know. But
yeah. Who knows? Sometimes FFG sort of like reveals
kind of
these things to us
that
somehow.
We don't know that it's a female.
And their pronouns.
Anyways, one thing that we might want to talk about is something from the tournament scene that we just kind of want to touch on. Philip, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So some of you may have noticed that there's been a kerfuffle recently.
Oh.
There have been a few posts about it. This is something that it's been called the intentional draws incident. So basically what happened was the tournament rules changed recently. And one of the changes was that players could agree to instead of playing out their game, just have just end the game, not play, and both would be given. It would be counted as a draw. So you'd agree to draw instead of fight. And when you do that, when you get a draw naturally in the game, you get 1 point and 100 points of MOV. And the same thing happens when you intentionally draw. And I think the reasoning behind this was they had seen a few players sort of intentionally draw just by flying their ships around and not shoot at each other in competitive events. And apparently this is a big thing. Similar things happen in like Magic tournaments where people realize that if they draw, then it's to their advantage instead of like both players fighting it out and one taking a loss.
And trying to police draws, as in someone who's trying to slow play. That they're just trying to figure out if they were or trying to stop that from happening.
It's so difficult.
It's really difficult.
Right. So you can't eliminate draws altogether, is their thinking. So you might as well codify it and legalize it, so that you don't have people just playing symbols on tables. Yeah.
Not codify. That's a fish.
I'm pretty sure it's codify. Excuse me.
Codify. Tomato. Come on, guys. Stick to the plan here.
All right. Anyway, this has caused a huge outrage, partially because there was a regionals recently at Roanoke, where the top 8 tables of the tournament, everybody took an intentional draw right before they cut to the top 8. So there was the top 8 tables, and then everybody else. And the difference between points between the lowest person at top 8 and the player in 9th place was such that if the player in 8th place took a draw, then there was no way that the player in 9th place would be able to get enough tournament points to beat them out for the cut. So it was in everybody's interest, essentially, at the top 8 to just intentionally draw and then safely make it into the cut, from which the winner of the tournament is going to emerge eventually. Mm. Instead of taking a chance and playing out the game and possibly losing and not making the cut because someone else at a lower table had a really good game and was able to beat you out for that spot. And all 8 players drew. It should be pointed out that for many of these players, it didn't actually matter if they had played or not in the first place because they had so many points that even if they had lost horribly, it was either impossible or virtually impossible that they would not have a spot in the top 8. So I think that goes for probably the top 4 players. And then 5 through 8, but for 5 through 8, it was definitely in their interest to take the draw because they would guarantee their spot. And I think that's really the sticking point.
And some have included people like Paul Heaver, who's third-time national champion.
A lot of people from, I think, Nova Squadron are there too. I mean,
people also who, this is a regional, so they won a store championship and had a bye and could also skip a regular game. And so it basically created, some hatred or some ill will towards the idea of intentional draw. That
the internet outrage is almost instant.
The nerd rage.
Yeah, I can certainly expect it. Not being a tournament player, like I could sit here and I could throw that into my rant and just go on and on about this, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to say I'm kind of disappointed in it, to be honest with you. This is it's always been a sportsmanship sort of thing for me, and just if you can't win with your own skill, if you kind of have to game the system a little bit, then I wouldn't feel good winning that way. I mean, that's me. I would have been that. Hey, I'm in 8th place. I'm playing for it. If the guy across from me wants to draw, take your ships off the thing because I'm not going to. I'm going to play this thing out, win, lose, or draw. And I mean, I'm just disappointed. I'm kind of glad I don't do that stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, these people pay to be in that tournament. They pay to be in that tournament, and in a sense, they're helpless. The people outside of that top 8 are helpless. And I feel really bad for those people that
pointed out that the top 9 and 10 players came out shortly after this and said that they didn't feel offended. But so it's a little weird being offended for them.
Yeah, and I understand that. It's more, but I think that's more of it's the bed they've made, that it's a
symptom
quote,
of
the business they've chosen, I guess,
right. This is the kind of thing that happens when you have an extremely competitive game. When there's an option in the game that's legal, but wouldn't sit well with in a normal game, then but it gives you an advantage, then they might take it. They might be more tempted to take it. I think that if you didn't have the intentional draw rule, that you definitely wouldn't have seen the top 8 tables just fly circles around each other because it was in their best interest, right? They wouldn't have tried to make a natural draw, is what I'm saying. I think they would have played out their games just as they always have.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, it's kind of they saw something that was legal and used it to their advantage, and some of them didn't even really gain an advantage from it. It just gave them a lunch break.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. You get an hour off to go piddle around the store or wherever it's at, and
right. But that certainly didn't stop the internet from exploding.
That's the internet. We explode over everything.
That's the internet. The FFG forums. It was
these are my people. We can explode over anything. Trust me.
Yeah. It was a little, it was just disheartening seeing everybody so angry at each other. Really, if everybody had just said, "Oh my goodness, this shouldn't be happening," and sent organized play an email that said, "Hey, you guys should do something about this," I would feel much better about how this went down. But that's not what happens. People attacked each other.
I kind of feel against most of the internet because to me it is the perfect example of what a tournament is. It to me, tournaments have quit being fun and are about winning and about moving ahead. And this kind of codifies, I guess, that mentality. It says, yes, it is about winning and moving ahead. An intentional draw, you want to take that risk, boom, you're there. And that's what tournaments are. Like, that to me totally, completely says what a tournament is, that mentality. So I see it as like, yep, that's a tournament.
Yeah,
I have no problem with it.
It doesn't sit well with me that there is a mechanism by which players can come to an agreement, not play a game, and have that be in their mutual interest.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of securing themselves a spot to win the tournament.
You
shouldn't be able to.
It contradicts the spirit of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to agree not to play a game and benefit from that.
Right.
And I think it's being fixed. Organized Play had come out, I think, a couple weeks ago now that they're eventually going to remove this, and I think they're going to get rid of draws altogether, so there'll be no more draws, even natural draws in X-Wing.
Yeah, I understand it, and I understand people are upset, but I totally think that this is just kind of how tournament play is, like, where it's gone to already. That's just the way it is.
I heard one of the less about playing.
Yeah, one of the other podcasts talked about it's going to turn away the casual tournament player. I'm like, casual tournament player? What the hell are you talking about? Because there is no casual tournament player anymore. I mean, I played since Wave 1. I've seen casual tournament play. Casual tournament play has been dead since at least Wave 5. If not way sooner than that. So, unless you consider the guys who go to tournaments just to play at the low tables, just to get 5 games in a day because they can get that one rain check from the wife, you know. Like knowing that they're not going to win, but like tournament play is never been, you know, it's long dead to the casual player. Hence why I want to do this podcast. But so we can move on about.
Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about ID.
But Jonathan, does it make you angry?
Yeah, let's hear it. How angry does this make you, Jonathan?
I don't know. I think Jim scooped my heat earlier with his rant on the what were those again? Phantoms. I feel like if I just say Phantom, I'm going to piss Jim off.
Don't worry, Jonathan. I will remove the restraining bolt from your protocol droid mouth if you
don't
need
do that.
to.
Wait.
Oh no.
No.
Go crazy.
Guys.
Talk to me before you do that, Jake.
Come on. I'm a good guy. I don't have anything really to complain about this week. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, I do.
Lou, you will go to the Dago bus.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lou, go to the Dago bus system.
It just isn't fair.
Oh, I don't even know what I'm doing here. We're wasting our time.
Your insight served you well.
I've actually got a couple things to complain about, but I'm going to be nice. This is the first opportunity I get to actually kind of unleash my, well, it's not so much fury as it is really just, you know, discontent. Well, you guys, I'll start with an easy one. I've got a whole list here, obviously, but I'm going to start with an easy one on this episode. It's something I think we've all seen. We all know these people. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people listening to this right now are these people. And I'm trying to restrain myself here, but it really has started to get on my nerves a lot. And it really saps the energy out of me when I play the game. I don't know what the official name of these people are, but I'm going to give them one now. I like to call them backseat flyers. You people have probably heard or at least seen these people hovering around your table while you're trying to pick your dial. They're the guy who's like, I know what I would do here. Oh, I know exactly what I would choose. And then they tell you a maneuver that your ship doesn't even do. Really? No, I'm not doing the 3K turn on my Hawk. Thank you. I'm trying to fly this thing into a specific place so I can shoot this guy in the face with my ion cannon, okay? Just leave me alone. It's okay. I know what I'm doing. If I'm going to fly into the asteroid, I'm going to do it on my terms, not yours, okay? This is the same guy who, well, I don't know if everybody here goes to the gym, but he's the same guy at the gym who's telling you you're not doing that right. You need to hold your arm right. You need to do this or the other when you're trying to lift weights. But you're right in the middle of lifting that weight, and he's over there telling you to move your arm this way or that way. You're going to throw your back out. Come on, dude. Leave me alone. Just let me throw my back out in peace if that's what's going to happen, okay? So I'm at the table, and I'm in the tournament, and every other move I make, I got some guy looking over my shoulder. That's not what I do. And he's slowing my game down, you know? And he's slowing my opponent down, or he's the friend of the opponent. Ooh, that's not what I would do. Maybe we should rethink this. And am I playing the opponent or am I playing the opponent's team here? I didn't realize you got assistant coaches with you while you're playing the table, you know? And I got another one that ties into the same thing. You've probably seen these guys too, and heck, a lot of times it's the same guy. And I've got a name for them too. It's Monday morning architects. These are the guys who look at your list, take one glance at it. They've never played the ship before, but you know what? You did something wrong. You built that ship wrong. Why don't you have push the limit on that guy? Or maybe I don't like push the limit. Maybe I'm going to set fire to every single freaking push the limit card that I've got. I'm not going to do it in front of you. I'm going to do it away from you. Or maybe I'll do it right in front of you because I need you to see that I hate push the limit so much that I'm not going to play with it anymore. Jim has his card. I've got mine. Unfortunately, somebody stole it at the beginning of this podcast, so I had to choose a stupid one like TOT just to make it sound like I had something I knew what I was talking about. But these are the guys that sit there and they critique every little thing about your list. Why is your list only 99 points? Because I couldn't find something in the 5 minutes I was throwing this thing together while I'm eating my burrito from Taco Bell that would fit into 100 points, okay? I just wanted to get something on the table because I got 2 hours a week to play. I'm not going to sit there on my lunch break pouring over every little card that this game has and try and make something that's going to be perfect. I just want to have something that's going to look cool on the table and get shot out of the space and maybe, just maybe, we'll actually win a game. Maybe. Not over the past 6 months. It hasn't happened except for tonight. I beat Jim, and I'm going to congratulate myself on that one. And the fun thing about that was I beat him with a list who every single person that saw it, why the hell are you doing that? Why are you using a bunch of pilot skill 2s and 3s? Because that's all I got. That's all I got. I don't have every ship in the fleet. I just got these. So I'm playing with the cards I got. I'm not printing stuff out on the computer, and I'm not going to the internet. I'm playing the cards I got. So please, go home and critique somebody else's list, not mine. So if you're one of these people, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please leave me alone. And just be nice to everybody and let them fly their own ships and play your own list, not mine. And that's it, really. I mean, I'm not mad. That wasn't mad, was it, guys? It was just kind of, that was, I think we all understand.
No, that was good. That was good. I don't know why you've been slowly raising up that Hydra spanner, No. Guys, I'm calm. This isn't I mean, like I said, starting easy. Maybe next episode or whenever y'all let me do this again, we'll get on to the hard stuff. That was an easy one. I think we all agree here, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Go ahead and
they're bad people. If this is you, you're a bad person, and you need to stop. And maybe you should put the ships away and just go play something else. Maybe that's me. That's me.
Well, Jonathan, here's what I think how you should handle it.
Exactly. I've heard that voice, and you need to stop it. Okay?
Well, my neck beard's in the way, but
all right. Okay, that's all I got this week. I'll save the rest for next week.
That was good. That was good.
Okay.
That was great. I'll put the restraining bolt back on, and we'll save it.
He says the restraining bolt has short-circuited his recording system.
Maybe next week somebody won't scoop my heat here and run away for 20 minutes at the beginning about their fancy ships that they hate so much.
I don't know. I hate them too for you.
I can't believe people do that to me.
Yeah. All right. So after Rantwing, I wanted to bring up an idea that I saw in the forums that a few people have talked about that they've really kind of thought about lately. It's just an alternate way to play the game, and I think it's actually got some merit. I'm not advocating tournaments need to change or any of this other, nonsense. Just because I don't go to tournaments. Just if you want to play and have fun, but you want something different than 100 points around the 6 same rocks, back and forth. A variety of the game. What about playing with 150 points?
How do you think that could change things up?
This feels like the 90 feet between bases on baseball. I know this is a crazy tangent, but I don't know how many people watch sports, but if it was 100 feet, how many plays are suddenly always out? If it was 80 feet, how many times are they always saved? Is 100 points the perfect number for this game? And it was just kind of stumbled upon as hey, we like base 10 stuff? Or
probably.
Or is 150 points going to suddenly oh my gosh, it's like this epiphany. This is the greatest thing ever. I can create lists that are super powerful, but not so much so that 150 points of crazy generics or just a bunch of headhunters and that sort of thing can't stay on par with these super lists. I'm actually curious to try it. My only concern is I don't know if I got enough ships of some of the factions to play 150 points short of a bunch of big ones, a bunch of kind of medium or large base ships.
I think it kind of changes the meta in a way. In a meta, what the heck is meta? So meta is about so the meta game is basically the game of the game, and what I mean is how do you build your list knowing that your opponent's going to take certain something, and it changes, and so on one degree it would just change to something new. And people would be listening to the internet and the net listing and doing the same stupid 4 builds over and over again at 150 points. But I think it changes it enough to make it interesting to play on occasion because,
right?
Let's take Suntir Fel for example. How many 100-point lists are basically 3 ships? I mean, 3, maybe 4 ships, and that's all you see. And when you've got Suntir Fel that's arc dodging and going crazy and dancing around, or a phantom and ending up in a spot that was crazy and unexpected, and no one can shoot at them. But when you've got 150 points, let's just say, I don't know, rookie X-Wings, how many of those can you fit into a list? There's only so many arcs that Sunterfell can dodge. And he's great. Oh, his, focus and his evade token, ha ha ha. But you got like 3 X-Wings with focuses or target locks firing at you, and you can only evade so much of that. And to me, and when I've played Epic and such, Sunterfell tends to die like crazy because you've got so much massed firepower. You just go, oh, Sunterfell, he's a pain in the butt. I'm going to kill him now. Boom.
Right.
One turn, he dies. And when you've got 150 points, things like Sunterfell, which are such a staple of Imperial lists, they
become less effective because you can't.
Yes.
Yeah, and that makes you. That's what we really want, right? We wanted to, by changing the points around, you want to shake the tree up a little bit. Make those safe meta builds not good anymore, so people have to adjust. And if you're only playing, if you only ever play 5 games at 150 points, no one's ever going to develop a metagame for 150 points, right? There's not going to be a top 4 lists that you're going to see. Everyone's just going to be coming up with their own crap. So you bring back the creative list building where everyone feels like they're making their own, unique list, and they're having fun making that list and flying it, which is good.
And I can even see, because like there's always that one guy that or at least one guy who probably played 40K. And basically says, ha, I want to find a way to break this. I want to find the worst possible situation that'll screw everybody. What about Howl Runner and as many Academy ties as I can fit in? Well, one, there's only so many that can get within range 1 of Howl Runner. But then 2, all it takes is 3 or 4 assault missiles. Right. And that entire list is dead in 1 turn. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, they're all dead. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you have to think about it. You can't just do something simple like just bring a Howl Runner and a bunch of ties. You have to think about what your opponent is going to be thinking too. I mean, there's sort of almost like a nascent metagame there when you have to imagine what your opponent thinks that you're going to bring, but you don't know what he's going to bring because no one's ever going to set up a tournament system where everybody's playing 150 points. It's going to be the main tournament system is probably going to be 100 points, probably forever, right? That's going to be the core. Mm-hmm. So no one's going to go through the trouble of figuring out what the optimal 150 point lists are. Certainly not updating it every single way when every wave gets released.
I get the feeling there's going to be more of here's my 100 point list that's really really awesome. Let me just make a 1 more ship or 2 more ships that can get to 50 points.
They're going to throw in another ship that works well at 100 points, not thinking
another
about
U-boat.
how it's going to fly at 150 points.
Right.
That doesn't mean that necessarily every ship that is in the current metagame is bad at 150 point metagame. But you should think about it.
Yeah, it does shake things up. I mean, just right off the bat, if you're looking at, for an example, for comparison, a 100-point game for just rookie X-Wings, you've got 4 of them. But for 150, you've now got 7. That's a pretty significant jump there. And you're talking about, arcs of fire covering for where Sunterfell is going to land. You've got a lot of coverage. Right. For Imperials, that's from 8 ties to 12 ties, Academy pilots, That's a lot.
Right. When you think of like the T-65, what does everyone complain about is, it can't barrel roll or boost and change arc and reposition. When you've got freaking 7 of them, you really need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes less important. The repositioning might become significantly less important at higher points.
Yeah, I'm curious to see it. I think we might have to give it a go sometime and just see what we can come up with. Just get everybody at the one night to say, hey, make a 150-point list.
Games we should be playing.
Oh, goodness. I don't have enough time here.
I know. How many games
enough time to play these crazy games.
If anyone listening wants to try this out and send us a review or, just a battle report, or if you play on Vassals, send us a Vassal log file, that would be awesome. and I think we would definitely talk about it at some point.
Right, because I even know some people in the forum said, well, what if you beef up 3 large ships with all the maximum stuff, and then, it's 3 super ships, and they'll kill everything. I'm like, well, not really, because when you've got enough ships around, you can still have somebody in arc, and mass firepower kills big ships, fat ships, like nobody's business. And I almost feel like there'd be, with 150 points, as long as you play over 1 or 2 games, people kind of get the gist of it, that there's going to be like a well-balanced all-comers type attitude, that you can have some cheap, some elite, some this, some that. You kind of have it all. So I would definitely like to hear some experience from it all. But what is our email address again?
The email address, which we should be sticking in the show notes, is theshuttletydirium@gmail.com.
Because everybody can spell that, but
look it up.
If you listen to this podcast, you probably got it spelled in front of you.
If you found this podcast, you can find the correct spelling of Shuttle Tydirium. It's IUM variant, if there is any.
Should be in the name of the podcast, right?
Also, if you should probably be looking at it right now.
Right.
It's right in front of you. It's yellow. It's beautiful.
Good job. Pat yourself on the back.
All right. Do we have time to go through the B team?
Probably not this time. I think we're starting to wear people out. Yeah. It's exciting. It's awesome. It's my list. So it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to get blown up if you ever try and use it.
We've got such a great segment intro to the B team.
Yeah.
Basically non-uber efficient lists. And I've been singing it and humming it in my head for about a week or two, driving my family
It's coming.
crazy.
Next episode, we'll definitely have the B team.
Dun, 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 dun,
Don't ruin it.
All right.
I just want to do my quick plug for Custom Card League, and that should probably be it for us, right?
Sounds good.
Well, we can also mention what we're practicing to see if anybody else wants to try it out as we're trying it out.
The next mission that we're reviewing?
Yeah. You want to go with your custom card, though?
Well, let's do both. So the next mission that we're going to review is the first mission that Fantasy Flight stuck in the original core rulebook. It's Mission 1, Political Escort. So if you want to find that and play it, and send us a battle report in time for the next podcast recording, which could maybe very quickly, then you should send us a record of what happened or your battle report.
For people who know, there's a Senator Shuttle on the Rebels, 6 shield, 6 hull, 100 points both sides. You've got to get the shuttle across the board. You can do the protect action. So there's a lot of, when you think about it, there's a lot of interesting nuance you can do. Rebels do lots of synergy, lots of actions that can be shared and actions moved around on focuses of aids with crews and pilots. You can spam cheap Xeon E5s to give evade actions, but then on the other side, there's homing missiles that ignore evade tokens and can slam into the shuttles, and there's swarms of TIE fighters that just getting in close and blasting at things. There's a lot of nuance you can do. There's ion, cannons and turrets and bombs that, just delaying someone going straight forward and not turning around to get back into the action for a single round could be important enough to really, turn the tables. And
there have been a lot of layers added to the game since this mission has been published, so it makes it pretty interesting.
And thinking so on one hand, it's Jonathan was saying tonight, because we played it again, it's a good mission to really kind of teach the game for new people. But I also think that it's a game for those who know about the game to really pull out all the tricks that they know of and just start.
You definitely have to play it differently.
Yeah.
You can't just play it like a normal deathmatch. You will probably lose if you try to just kill the other guy's ships.
Yeah.
Leave it at that. So play that mission and send us your report, and we'll try and feature it if we get those before the next recording. So the other thing that I wanted to plug tonight was a project that I recently decided I was going to undertake, and this is what I'm calling the X-Wing Custom Card League. If you have played X-Wing for a while, I'm guessing that you have at one point come up with an idea for a card that you would like to have been in the game. We were talking even just earlier in the show. I came up with this long-range sensors card idea to help fix ordnance. Stuff like that. This is, I see this stuff all the time on Fantasy Flight's forums. I see it on Reddit. But the thing is that these cards almost always see like zero play. Even if you came up with a really awesome upgrade card or ship card or a pilot, I'm willing to bet that you either played with it once or never played with it at all, and probably never played with it at all. And I think that's kind of a shame. I think that if we work together and get enough people, we could come together, pool a whole bunch of submissions for cards, do some voting, do a little bit of development, and put together a nice little package of cards. Something about the same size as a wave. So however many new cards we got in Wave 8, I'd be aiming for about the same number. And then get those cards loaded up on a Vassal module and play a tournament with those cards. And I think that would be a lot of fun, and I think it'd be really cool. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out on the forums. Keep an eye out. Keep an ear out, I guess. The podcast. I'll definitely mention it when we get started, where you can find information and send your submissions. But I think I'm definitely going to do this. So
yeah, it definitely sounds interesting. I know I've got at least one card idea that I might throw out there.
Everybody has a card. Everybody wants to do this. You want to do this. Just do it. You'll feel much better about yourself. It's going to be awesome. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Figured it'll be out, and I'll start it in like 2 or 3 weeks. So in mid-March, or mid-May, rather.
Excellent. Rock on.
All right.
Probably a week or two after this comes out.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So I think that might conclude this edition. I've got so much more I want to talk about. So
yeah, we don't want to go too late, though.
Yep, we don't want to be too late, and we'll try to get our edit bot to work on this and get it out as soon as possible, and we'll try to keep recording. So everybody, thank you once again. Any last words or comments?
I think I'm just going to head down to the engineering room. I'll bring Cranky. Jonathan, it's time for your oil bath again.
I'd just like to remind everyone to take your trash with you as you leave. Don't stick stuff under the seats. Someone left a burger when they got off last time, and I didn't see it. It's been there for a week. It smells really bad. So don't do that again, please. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good day. Check back for the next episode, and may the Schwartz be with you. All right. Bye, guys.